10 years ago, a new breed of celebrity was born.
Your first performance could also be your last.
But these weren't the usual suspects.
We laid the foundations for the beast that has become reality television.
They were accidental heroes.
I look like such a tool.
You run, Subs.
Let's return to Airport. When the BBC arrived at Heathrow Airport to film their new docusoap, it was out with the old and in with the new.
Do you know that I couldn't get, well, none of us could get a picture.
The late 90s saw new celebrities.
He'll appear like in a vision at the top of the stairs, the cloud of smoke.
New airlines had old problems.
1 second, we're going to get the aircraft back onto the departure gate, OK? It happens, don't worry.
And the Queen was downgraded to first class.
He made a little gesture of a wave, but we didn't see any of it.
The world was changing forever, and some sought opportunities elsewhere.
I took the very, very difficult decision to leave Heathrow and Aeroflot behind.
Sweet, sweet memories you gave.
Resident Heathrow photographer Russell Clisby and journalist Steve Mellor made a living from the rich and famous. And once upon a time, they chased really big names. You know, even ones your mum would know.
Bob Hope,
Frank Sinatra.
Bing Crosby, 6 American presidents, Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, yeah, good one.
Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed.
Oh, Oliver Reed.
Fellow photographer Dennis Stone knew a Hollywood legend when he saw one.
All right, Joan. Joan Collins is one of my favourite members of the airport. She's been in and out so many times. She knows me from old.
He remembers the days when the stars knew their worth and enjoyed playing the game.
You're very saucy. Dennis, yes, is an old friend. Since I practically live at the airport, I've seen him millions of times.
Thank you, Joan.
Very good. I even sent him a birthday card. One of his big birthdays.
She's fun, she's enjoyable, great sense of humour, and loves to be photographed. And we love photographing her. She makes good pictures for us. Kiss goodbyes.
I'll see you soon.
So, thanks a lot, Joan. Bye.
Nowadays, the stars are a different breed. They're mainly one-hit wonders and wannabes.
The people that do come through now, the CD-list celebrities, quote celebrities.
Even the hot celebrities keep stum.
It's all so much more controlled now. People don't tend to speak off the cuff.
These days, they seem to try to keep it quiet. And they don't want to be photographed here, there and the other.
You know, I mean, that was shot from very low, like looking up, and, you know, the hat, she knew that I couldn't get, well, none of us could get a picture.
It used to be so much easier getting to the stars.
She flies. Concorde flies at last.
Yup, the supersonic Concorde was super luxurious and a magnet for any aspiring celebrity. But even that was to change.
A technological triumph of the 60s, it became a commercial nightmare. Concorde is no longer profitable to fly.
So, after 30 years at the top, Concorde was forced into retirement, to the dismay of the exclusive clientele.
Quite a few Concorde regulars are taking one last trip.
It's a fantastic aircraft. It was a great, great achievement.
But how would the press cope without this celebrity conveyor belt?
Now there's no Concorde. The A-list celebrities tend to use private jets into other airports.
Anita Newcourt in the Royal Suite looked after the private jet set, including Prince Andrew.
Your Highness, good evening.
Well?
Yes, thank you.
Every single movement that we have through any of the VIP suites has to be almost perfect, if not absolutely perfect. That's the job.
It's only dinner tonight, and then tomorrow is the stone.
Hence the get-up.
Well, I've got to go to dinner. Well, I'm having a dinner tonight, so...
I hope you're not late for it.
No. I won't be late for it. Everybody else will be early.
Anita could hobnob with the best of them, but that was only part of the job.
There are lots and lots of problems at the airport for VIPs, security, safety, working with customs and immigration. So we've got to work with a lot of people to get the show on the road and to make it work.
One of the main jobs was keeping the press pack away. Andrew's ex-wife Fergie enjoyed the refuge of the royal suite.
One of the secrets of this job is just to be discreet, and we try and do that.
The Duchess of York was getting quite a lot of hassle from the media about various stories. When she came through the suites, I think she'd find us a bit of a sanctuary away from the outside world.
Sometimes when you're coming in and you're tired after a long trip, then the first thing you want to see is a happy, smiling face, and that's what you get. It's fantastic, it really is, because it really makes you think, oh gosh, OK, someone's pleased to see you.
Nice to see you again. 2 Delta.
But even for royalty, things aren't what they were.
London Airport. Queen Mother, of course.
Back in 1961, the Queen leaving Heathrow was a national event. She had the whole family come to send her off.
And a wave to all those of us who watch.
Even half the government turned up to make sure she got off okay.
To the Earl of Hume, the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Sands. Smoothly and powerfully away into the sky.
Next week on BBC television, the Queen gets into a jolly big car. Fast forward to 1995, and the Queen's standards have dropped. She took a commercial flight for the first time.
Heathrow? Sorry. Very nice day.
For photographer Dennis, she was still one of the few who played ball.
I photographed the Queen on many occasions, and usually she's fine. You get some nice photographs of her. She don't overdo it. Like, she's nice and regal, which is always nice. She has to be, and we all appreciate her for it. But on the one big occasion, she was going out on a commercial aircraft, and I stood myself nicely in the position to think, I'll get a nice picture for going up the stairs. Of course, the car turns up almost in front of us. Think, well, I can still look over the top there. And she went up, and everybody went up with her. So couldn't see her at all. She was blocked out by her entourage. So all we could see of the Queen was somebody else's hat in front of her face, even when she turned around. I believe she made a little gesture of a wave, but we didn't see any of it. So as far as I'm concerned, useless. I have to explain to my editor that it all went wrong.
Dennis didn't get the snap, but it's rumoured that she had to endure the terrible food, screaming babies, and the great unwashed, like the rest of us. And apparently she requested a special screening of Terminator 2. Some things never change. Jeremy Spake had worked at Heathrow since the late 80s, and he'd seen it all. His first ever passenger had a special kind of excess baggage.
You're programmed, you're conditioned to ask those standard questions. Could anybody have interfered with your baggage? La 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 la. And I just vaguely remember saying to this woman, could anybody have interfered with you? And she just looked at me, and there was this completely blank expression on her face. And everybody around looked straight at me and said, did you really just ask her if anybody could have interfered with her? And I hadn't noticed that she was pregnant.
Often it was new technology causing old problems.
Oh, the baggage mark appears to be non-operative. It's fairly new, the system, and it seems to be having quite a few teething problems, to say the very least.
But as the excess baggage meister, Jeremy wielded the kind of power which would corrupt a lesser man.
Check in.
He had to decide whether these Chinese students could take back half a ton of books.
You know, you're a student, you're inevitably going to be buying books, aren't you? And these people present themselves with 200 and 300 kilos of baggage.
See, the thing is, let me just say to you, you need to be honest with me for me to be able to help you, OK?
And inevitably, they've got to pay something. How cruel of me would it be to say, actually, tough, you've got to leave all the books behind. We're going to have a bring and buy here later at the end of the day.
Jeremy's human side shone through, and he did his bit for international relations.
Yeah? We'll need to see your hand baggage when you check in, but if you've got 24, fair enough. Yeah, no problem. All right?
It seemed he had more sympathy for students than for the world's poor.
We prefer to, because it's lots of...
You prefer to take it all with you? For the poor!
Yeah, honestly.
Oh, bless. How many times have I heard that today?
They started saying, please, you don't understand. And the truth is, yeah, you do understand. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can only put so much in an aeroplane before it won't take off.
I'm not going to mess around. You either pay the amount we're asking, or you throw the bag away, or we take you off the flight.
Rules were rules, unless you were a Gurkha, of course, which this bloke wasn't.
The only person I've ever let off of that was a Gurkha in the British Army who was returning to Nepal, and they're tough.
We won't worry about your telly, Ariel.
This guy had a 75-kilo piece of handling. I said, if you can lift that above your head using one hand, you can take it. And he did. He lifted it way above his... Because I thought he's never going to be able to do that, because I couldn't even lift it with two hands, let alone one. And he lifted it right above his head.
Tally-ho, here we go.
Perhaps it's unsurprising that Jeremy got fed up with all these shenanigans. He would soon be flying away from it all. Russell and Steve could always rely on one person for a story and a snap. In 1998, Tony Blair came to open the Heathrow Express rail link.
You never know what's going to happen next. You could do Hugh Hefner, it's, oh, sorry, I've got to go now, I'm just going to go in the Prime Minister.
Heathrow has long been the hangout of prime ministers, presidents and playboys. Now it's not just pressing the flesh on the red carpet, this is highly stage-managed theatre.
Well, you suddenly get this big crescendo build-up and he'll appear like in a vision at the top of the stairs in a cloud of smoke. It'll be like a Michael Jackson concert, I think.
The star was our brand new, fresh-faced PM. And the Messiah was descending from the heavens.
Here he comes,
This was back when we laughed with him.
Told by Ron Hall that this is the button that I have to press. You see that they don't have a great deal of faith in the ability of politicians. So, he said, I don't think you can miss the button as you get onto the platform. So
Steve was thinking the same as everyone else. Please shut up and just press the button.
I'm not quite sure what happens after that.
Oh, he's pressed it. Darkness. Music. What's going on? What are those spotlights doing? What's going to happen? This is thrilling. This is massive. Oh, a curtain! And... right. Okay. Good. This was a train they couldn't miss. But luckily, Steve had perfected the art of running without the use of his arms.
You've got to be fit to do this job, I tell you.
And are you?
No. Here we go. Sorry, please. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
This star was never one to miss a photo opportunity.
What you got there, though? Wow, that's my foot you had there. Sorry. That's all right. I've got another one the other leg. Don't worry about it.
The era of the stage-managed celebrity would mark the end of the line for Russell and Steve's gravy train.
There we go. Job done.
In 1999, there was one astronomical star whose movements they could be sure of. But was it news? It came from outer space. It made everyone stop and stare. And it was a bit rubbish. So Steve and Russell discussed tactics over a cup of tea and a Danish.
I think it was in '99, there was a total eclipse of the sun, and we were trying to get some sort of Heathrow angle on the story. Didn't quite know what.
I mean, I've already had one tabloid paper came on to me and sort of said, what's happening with the airport? Is it coming to a standstill? Will they stop flying and things like that? I mean, they don't stop flying at night. It's not that they can't find out where they're going. So we're just going to watch it and see what happens, I think. We've gone behind the clouds here.
The sun's over here, so it's tracking that way, so...
They needed a human angle. When in doubt, go to the car park.
The sun's so high.
Yeah, it's about 93 million miles high.
Not exactly a fashion statement, is it?
BBC were saying, oh, it would be a great story, and I was just thinking, this is impossible. I remember going up onto the roof gardens. There's a guy with a welding mask.
So where'd you get hold of that, or is it part of the job?
It's part of their job, yeah.
Is it? Welding mask? What can you see through there? I mean,
can you hold it up again? And trying to shoot through the welding mask to get the sort of gradual eclipse. Imagine trying to photograph an eclipse with a normal camera where you can't. You have to get special gear and all that. That is Robbie Williams. Just do a picture if you're doing that. Oh, that is Robbie Williams. Oh, no, it's not. It's all saints.
Steve's an expert in asking difficult questions of prime ministers, football heroes and film stars. How will he cope with a 12-year-old boy?
What did you think of the eclipse?
He doesn't understand it.
He doesn't? Oh, right. Can you ask him? No? All right. OK, thank you. Have a nice day.
Reflecting off the lens. Like really
Another
bright.
spectacular failure on the interview department there.
All right. It all comes down to this, up some steps.
We tried all sorts of locations and we ended up standing watching the eclipse of the sun, which is an event that happens every 100 or 200 years, standing outside some porter cabin somewhere with our backs pressed against the wall.
This is a monkey with a computer, look.
Which end do you look through? Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, look at that.
It was all a bit of an anti-climax, really. But nothing happened.
No one's jumped, I take it?
No?
No one's jumped?
No one's jumped, no. No druids.
No.
No rats. No locusts.
If I remember rightly, it wasn't. Oh, is that it? That was it.
Nothing.
Another day at the office, mate.
This star had been eclipsed. But was this a bad omen for the future? For the BBC, however, no news could be good news. In fact, sometimes the more mundane it was, the better.
The production team said to me, "We want to film you driving to work." I thought, well, OK, fair enough. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because how boring is it going to be?
Exactly. Driving to work around the M25. But if anyone could conjure up magic out of a traffic jam, it was Jeremy Spake. For some reason, there was something compelling about watching this larger-than-life man drive to work.
Already my day is beginning to look like it could go wrong. What did you do with your day-to-day, Jeremy? Well, I left home and sat on the M25, and then, it was time to go home again. Did you get to Heathrow? No, I didn't actually. I spent the whole day admiring the trees just off of junction 27 of the M25.
Evil. Evil. That should be blown up, that road. The M25. Hate it.
In 1 hour, the aircraft should be leaving for Moscow, yes? And I've seen none of it.
When I think about my journey to work, I used to travel 120 miles in each direction every single day. And people would say to me, why? Why are you doing that? And it was because work was an adrenaline rush.
Jeremy was enjoying the thrill of working at Aeroflot, the rejuvenated Russian airline.
When we were filming sort of the 97 period, we were one of the very first airlines to receive the Boeing 777. And the whole industry was like, oh, what's happened there? How did that actually come about?
It wasn't long before Jeremy got the chance to test the new plane himself on a flight to Moscow.
I'll explain why I'm about to check myself in. It's not that I've gone really mad and taken leave of my senses. I am actually going on my very first Boeing 777 flight from Heathrow. It's very exciting. But I don't trust anybody to check me in. Plus the fact, I'm here nice and early, so I'll get the best seat in the house.
But things went wrong even before the plane left the ground.
And what made this worse was the fact that I was actually going on this flight myself.
Now, have you got any baggage? No, I've got no baggage at all, thank you very much. Hand baggage only, do you mind? I don't need to ask you if you packed it yourself then, really, do I? They better not go without me. It's very embarrassing. I nearly missed that. How embarrassing. That is so embarrassing.
With Russian relatives, Jeremy often had reason to visit the motherland, and today he did it in style.
There's all these buttons on here. It's got loads of buttons to make his chair comfy. Looks, I mean, there's... Do you know when you get in a plane, normally there's just one button to sort of push it backwards? This one's got one for your foot, one for your bum, and one for your back. And probably an eject as well if I cause too much trouble.
Little did he know that it was the woman right behind him that would need ejecting.
I can hear in the background this South African woman, and she seems to be getting slightly excited.
She thought she was going to Paris.
And there's been this "No dami и господа, добро пожаловать на борту наш самолет Boeing 37. So there's been this announcement made in Russian. You know, it's a fairly distinct language. It's almost impossible to confuse that with, shall we say, French.
Oh, we're off.
So she gets up and she starts shouting at the stewardess, "Why is this aircraft not going to Paris? Where am I going?" And she said, "Don't worry, you're going to Moscow. It's very nice." So the stewardess completely missed the fact that this woman was on the wrong flight and was trying to convince her that she should just shut up, sit down and enjoy the trip.
Сейчас, подождите, у нас проблема здесь. У нас пассажир в Париж на борту самолета.
So, of course, I then go onto the flight deck and the captain thinks I'm the reason he's got to go back to the terminal. And he says to me, "Idiot, what you're doing?" I said, "No, I'm coming with you, comrade. It's this woman here, this fool. You know, she's completely lost her brain."
I couldn't understand this. What's going on? How can they stop the flight to
Yes,
Paris?
hang on a sec, man. We've got to stop this aircraft first. Okay, so if you hang on 1 second, we're going to get the aircraft back onto the departure gate, okay? It happens,
But
don't
why
worry.
did they...
It's all right, don't worry.
I
Once
mean-
we're back on the stand, the aircraft's next door,
Now,
so
will
we'll be able to sort the problem out.
will the aircraft
Well, we'll
wait
have to
for
sort
me?
that out afterwards, madam, you know?
In all my years, I'd never ever had a passenger get on the wrong flight. And so we kicked her off and went on our merry way.
Well, Moscow, here we come.
Ah, Jezza, we loved watching your daft antics and crazy humour. But we knew in our heart of hearts, even Heathrow couldn't contain your big personality. In 1999, Jeremy left airport to follow a new path. But where would it take him? Today, it's all change at Heathrow. Back in the 50s, increased passenger numbers led to the building of Terminal 2 and the famous Heathrow Tunnel. 50 years on, and Terminal 5 is almost ready. Anita still manages the Royal Suite and can't wait for the opening.
What keeps me at Heathrow? This excitement. Every day is different.
She's getting a whole new VIP suite, and she's been involved since the first brick was laid.
It's going to be a new challenge, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be a great place to work. I am thrilled that we'll be there.
Terminal 5 will be larger than Hyde Park and increase capacity to 90 million passengers a year.
Wow. The scale of this place is just so enormous.
For Anita, it's as important as improving her own home.
This is so exciting. I've just got to capture that for the future. This is what it looked like at the beginning. Of course, my passengers won't be coming up here.
We've got a purpose-built area inside Terminal 5 for the VIP suite, purpose-designed, very comfortable, but also very discreet.
Harrods is over there.
As Heathrow grows, so does Anita's ambition.
I'm probably going to be working much longer hours than I do now and getting far less sleep, but it is exciting to have even more people to look after, even more VIPs to look after. Don't want my VIPs getting upset. Yeah. Excellent.
When Jeremy gave up his day job with Aeroflot in 1999, he gave up a direct link with his beloved Russia.
My family are from Russia. It hails as part of who I am. I think the country is just the most amazing place on this planet. It's in my blood.
Jeremy says he's now a citizen of the world.
I really don't know where my home is. You know, some would say my home is Moscow, some would say my home was St. Petersburg, some would say my home was, you know, England, some would say my home was, you know, Africa. My home is wherever I am at the time, doing whatever it is I need to do.
Today, Jeremy's in London, or what Russian emigres call Moscow-on-Thames.
Oh, marvellous. You see, now I'm actually at home because this particular shop, which is in Bayswater, is called Kalinka.
And it's a very famous Russian name, but you can buy all these wonderful Russian things in here. It's possible to buy pretty much any sort of major Russian ingredient you want. The salads, you know, very famous gherkins. It's impossible to sit at a Russian table and not have gherkins. So there's just such a huge choice. Oh, I'm hungry. It's making me peckish.
Where better to satisfy your hunger than a local Russian cafe with live entertainment?
This is what you want. This is kind of sitting here, nice cup of chai, some vareniki, lots of lovely music. You know, this is like Moscow in madness. It's wonderful.
If somebody asks me where my real passion is, my passion is Russia. So that's the place where I feel most at home.
Who needs Russia when you've got him? Hey! Steve is still working the corridors of Heathrow, but it's harder than ever. With more controlled PR and less accessible celebrities, Steve has found stories harder to come by.
It's oh so still.
It doesn't seem to be that there's many news stories around now. We used to get stories whereby if there'd been an event in the world, the first eyewitness accounts you'd get would be when people arrived back at Heathrow.
As resident press with all access passes, Russell and Steve have the run of the airport.
Any message for the fans at all?
Not as comfortable directing as I am.
Louise, what's it like to be home?
Thank you. That was the result, wasn't it?
But for hard news, Heathrow isn't the place it once was.
There's not as much news around. You have to put in a few longer hours and walk a few more corridors and things like that. I'm seriously thinking of actually doing something else. I've done 35 years at the airport, and to some extent the buzz has gone out a bit. So I think I could do with a new challenge. I'd always been a musician. Since the age of about 13, I've been playing guitar and writing songs and things like that. And it's something I still do. When I get back from the airport, it's about the first thing I do is come in here and just mess around with music. It's something I've always loved doing. The job I've got is, you know, fabulous. Like all my heroes, I've managed to meet them all. Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and the Gallagher brothers. The only one I regret not meeting was John Lennon. He never came through the airport when I was there, and he's probably my biggest hero.
And Steve's latest single sounds like a bit of a nod to the great man.
I just dream of you. I just think of you all the time.
Nice. Now, let's hear the solo.
It's a hobby. If I could turn that hobby into a job or a career or something, it's something I'd like to do, but I don't. Maybe I've left it too late.
Surely, after all these years of pestering celebs, you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end, would you?
I'd like to give it a go, yeah. I'd like to try being a rock star celebrity instead of an airport celebrity.
Next time on Return to Airport...
Oh, it's a bumpy ride, ladies and gentlemen.
Find out if Jeremy's celebrity career took off or crashed and burned.
It's Jeremy Spake.
Jeremy Spake.
Jeremy Spake.
And whether fame comes at a price.
My phone rang off the hook, and I thought, oh my word, what have I done?
Here he is.
And how did everyone else cope with their newfound celebrity?
You want to bloke off the telly?
Think who's that?
I think that's going to be written on my gravestone. Here lies the man off the telly.
And there's more from Airport here on BBC4 on Monday. Next tonight, we're in Wales for another look at the hidden history with Hugh Edwards.